Morning, good morning. Today, Teresa and I are going to be talking all things being sacral. So, if you are sacrally defined in human design, come on in. If you're not, come on in. Join us and learn a little bit about it. Oh, let's see here. Good morning, good morning. I just realized the title. I forgot the L. MG things, huh? Good morning. Hi, Carla. Hi, Jen. Teresa should be joining us shortly. I see her. She just hopped on. There we go. Maybe. Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Cheers.
I forgot the L and being sacral at the top.
Oh,
Well, I typed it, but it didn't show up.
being sacra.
People will be like, what's that?
Classic.
Classic MG shit.
How's everyone doing this morning?
Morning, good morning. So today we don't really, we have shit that we want to talk about, but we'd love to have stuff to respond to. So if you have any questions or comments, drop them down there. You both have the most divine mugs. Oh, thank you. I painted this one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know you painted that one.
You did.
I purchased this one.
Yeah, it is early.
It is early. I woke up like 30 minutes ago, I think. So I'm still kind of waking up. I had to set an alarm for this actually because I was like, I don't know that I'm going to wake up.
My child had early band this morning, so I was up at 6 o'clock.
That's why you're all chirpity.
Well, I wait every morning. So speaking about like being sacral, I have this desire for my child to not go to public school. But he loves it. He loves it. He's a triple split. He loves being around the people. And so every morning I wait to respond for him to say, I don't want to go to school. And I will say, okay, yes. Mom, do I have to go to school? No, you don't. But he never says that, but I just wait for it. So especially on early band days, this is probably terrible parenting, but it's just my reality that I'm like, if he says, do I have to go to band? Do I have to wake up? I will say no, but he never says that.
He's always like, I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
But that's just an example. Instead of me initiating like, do you really want to go to band? Or why don't we just stay home? I just wait to respond to him. Wait to respond.
And I think that's where responding can really apply to everything, almost.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking the other day and we're like, if your arm is bleeding, it's like, yeah, you're gonna have, I guess technically you'd be responding to that. It's like we're literally always responding. Yeah, I think that just is like a really good kind of segue into this, because so the whole reason we started this whole being sacral thing is because over the last couple of months, we've both received several clients that have been in their experiment for, 1 to 3 years and still do not understand strategy and authority as sacral beings.
Yep.
And it's like people will know base theory, but they don't know how to follow their strategy.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of confusion, and this is also something I probably get DM'd about the most. Like, hey, I'm a generator. Am I really just supposed to like sit around and wait? So we really wanted to bring this to the table and, talk about all things sacral, because at this point, that is how Brandy and I operate entirely. So.
Yeah. And we love projectors. I really don't know if there's people in the human design field that love projectors as much as Teresa and I do. Mm-hmm. I love them. However, what we're noticing is that while projectors are here to guide sacral energy, what I'm responding to with my clients is that they can guide sacral energy, but in human design, and in my experience, a non-sacral cannot like connect you to your sacral or explain lived experience of being a sacral being. Or I mean, it's just like I go to projectors for guidance all the time. I have a projector husband who guides me all over the place in the house and picks up after me and makes sure I'm not skipping steps and shit, or all of that. But he couldn't ever explain to me, if I asked my husband to explain to me like that joy, that excitement, that lit feeling, all of that, he couldn't do that. He could mechanically talk to me about it, but he couldn't give me that lived experience. And there's something different that lands with sacral beings when you're talking to them and you have these lived experiences about just connecting with your sacral.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with projectors,
Totally.
Same thing with
Totally.
any other type. And we talk
Absolutely.
about that a lot, like aces in their places. We
Mm-hmm.
both have referral lists. We both send
Yep.
people to like type people because I
Mm-hmm.
think anybody can give a reading. Anybody can tell you about your chart. Anybody can give you chart analysis. However, there's a really different frequency when it comes to lived experience.
Yeah.
And you just can't beat it. Like,
Right. Yeah, like I know my place. All of a sudden in 1 week, I got 3 mental projectors that requested sessions with me. And what that gave me something to respond to was like, whoa, so I backed my sessions off to, if you want to just talk about like the foundation of human, just like a foundational reading, I'm only working with sacral authority, not even emotional authority. But having 3 mental projectors, I was like, oh, they like booked their sessions. And I was like, what? And then I had to like get a hold of them and be like, I have a referral for you. I know nothing about being a mental projector. I can tell you about being a mental projector, but I can't see you the way that a projector can see you. And I'm starting to notice that with sacrals, as far as like, yeah, it's cool how non-sacrals can like experience it through the transits, but I feel like nobody can see the experience of a sacral being like another sacral being. And I was talking to Amy Ruth about this a little bit last night. She's a projector. She joined us for a chat recently about parenting. And she was like, I can see when the sacral is in response. I can see it. She's like, when I'm working with a client, I can see it, but I can't like describe it to them, like how it feels, because it's sometimes a very visceral feeling.
mm-hmm.
And yeah,
It's
there's
like
just
how
like,
we can't really describe how recognition and invitation feels because it's not the same for us. We're here to work in response. We don't need to be recognized, even though
yeah,
recognition feels good for everybody. We
right.
don't know what that feels like as a projector to get a recognized invitation.
Mm-hmm. 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 I'm going to read some of these comments. I want to make sure we're catching up on them. Definitely cannot teach you all to feel that sacral. What I feel from sacral is wild and doesn't make total sense to me. That's from projector Emily. Yeah. And my husband and I were talking about this yesterday in the car. I was like, I've always wondered why he didn't have the same level of excitement or express the way that I do. Because I'm like, yeah. I mean, I have defined ego too. So it's kind of like, whoa, yeah, yeah. And I get excited and lit. And Teresa's experiencing a little bit of that right now with Gate 26. She's like, I am lit.
I was like, is this
But
how you feel all the time? I'm
I'm
fucking
just like
lit.
that level of excitement and joy. He's like, no. He goes, I feel that inside. I don't express it the same. And I'll be like, before I knew about human design, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you happy?
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, there's nothing like it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, for me, it's what's most important about human design, especially when you're first entering the experiment, is that real life integration. Like, what does the day-to-day life look like? And projectors are designed to operate completely differently than generators are.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's where the response thing kind of gets lost in the sauce. It's like,
Yeah,
because projectors aren't just, I mean, you guys get conditioned to respond, let's be honest.
totally. Totally.
But it's more of a, how do you operate on a day-to-day basis? Like, how do
Mm-hmm.
you go through your life each
Yeah.
day?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
when you say like, I'm going to wait to respond for my kid to tell me he doesn't want to go to school anymore, it's like, most people's first inclination is just to force that on them, or
Yeah.
initiate that. And that is, I would say, one of the hardest things for generators is to be like, oh shit, I really am supposed to wait to respond.
Mm-hmm. And initiating all the time, and they're like, why is this? And that just creates frustration. And then your mind, you think you're responding, but you're actually initiating, or you're responding to something in your own mind, and it's like a clusterfuck.
Ooh,
And
let's talk about that.
yeah,
That's one of my favorite things to talk about.
woo, you're just pumped.
See, this is sacral energy, you guys. Like, woo! With some defined heart mixed in, apparently. But even that, with the transits, I'm like, I don't really know what this feels like.
She's defined, for those of you, like gate 26 is defining her ego alone. She has 44, so she's just today, and for a couple days, she's like, wham!
I think it's like that channel in particular too.
Oh yeah.
Because I've definitely had other ego definition this year, and I'm like, it's not the same. But yeah, so let's talk about that. Working in response to something that is in your external reality versus something that is in your mind out of thin air, because I think that's something that generators do a lot is, well, I'm responding to my mind.
Right.
And the way that I like to describe this, and this is a very visceral type of feeling, so I don't know, this is something that I'm still trying to express, but I'm integrating right now. The way that it feels when you're working in response, especially like, for example, with being sacral, it felt like there was this supportive infrastructure already out there, just waiting for us to respond to. Because we had so many clients say all of these things, and you know what I'm saying? It's just, it felt like it was already out there. With manifestors, and I'm not a manifestor, so I don't know, but from what I understand, it's bringing something completely new into reality. Whereas with generators, we're responding to what's already out there. And it's it's a feeling. I'm feeling cognition, but it's just a feeling of, yeah, that's waiting for me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. It's waiting for you. You're waiting for it. Also, why people can get manifestation like entangled into this, but it's already existing.
Yeah, and I think even I'm desire motivation, and I feel like with desire motivation, we'll be like, okay, so I'm just supposed to have everything I desire. And you can easily twist that into like, well, I want this from my mind, and so I need to go out there and make that happen. But the more I get deeper into this, the more I realize my desires actually reveal themselves to me. It's like I'm discovering my desires through following my strategy and authority, not like from this place of out of thin air and in my mind.
Exactly. And it can be hard. And I don't know what it feels like to have a defined head. So I wonder if it's easier for generator types with defined heads to like not respond to that stuff, but open head,
all the things,
all the time,
all the time.
All the time. And so, that could like really keep you running in a loop if you're just constantly responding to your mind, as far as like why things aren't like working out the way you think they should, or they're not. In human design, I like to think of like, if I'm working in response not from my own mind or my open head, then things are smoother. Like I don't meet those frustrating roadblocks, or don't have to like work through blocks and do work. I'm just going to say it too. How much unnecessary work, internal work, are we doing when we meet blocks for things that were not even correct for us? Like, what a waste of energy, man.
Oh, Sammy just brought up a great point. My generator friend will ask me to ask her questions, and it always makes me laugh because I know it's mental, because she's trying to access her sacral versus just living and watching herself. That is it. Yep. And I think, there's kind of a period of time where we go through like generator training wheels
Mhm.
where we just kind of need to get in touch with what that response feels like. So
Yeah.
we might ask people to ask us questions, or if something is coming into our field for us to respond to, we might be like, hey, this keeps coming into my field. Can you actually just ask me so that I can take a second to connect to that?
Yeah.
But when it's like should I move? Hey, can you ask me if I want to move? That's coming from your mind.
Versus like seeing like a sign that says Iowa sweet corn and you're like, oh, hey, ask me if I want to move to Iowa.
See what you did there? Oh
Somebody
man.
just said something. They're flying by quick. Carla says, I have a manifestor that has brought an opportunity into my life. My mind thinks because it's an excellent opportunity, I should do it. No, not self issues coming up there, but I have no sacral energy. Well, I could dissect that sentence. My mind thinks it's an excellent opportunity. I should be, I should do it. The shoulds, anytime like I hear myself should, I'm like, oh, no, you know.
Mm-hmm. Should.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Nope.
Get out of here with your shoulds.
Right.
Doing
Like
shit all over yourself.
this morning, for instance, like I was literally in my PJs about all morning until about 12 minutes before the call. And this morning I kept being like, looking at my bathroom, like, should I get ready? No, 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 I'm not going to get ready. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like I saw my chapstick and I put on my chapstick and then I felt, and then it was just like this like spiral of like responding to how I wanted to feel. And I was like, I'm going to brush my hair. And, it's just like, I don't know, just working in response instead of sitting all morning thinking, should I get ready for the day? Like I even
Mm-hmm.
wait to respond to get ready for the day. If I don't have anywhere I have to go, I just wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to like get up and go for a walk every morning because I thought I should.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in Arizona, it's like the weather is really nice for 7 months out of the year, and you want to soak that up. You
Mm-hmm.
want to really enjoy it. So I'm like, oh, I should go for a walk every day. And I started just waiting to respond. And it's kind of funny. It'll be like, I'll just be doing my thing, and then my husband will randomly say, you gonna go for a walk? And I'm like, yes, I am. But
Yeah.
I didn't even initiate it. So, you
Yeah.
don't have to live that extreme if you're not
Right.
ready for that.
Yeah.
It's taken us both 3 years to get here.
Yeah.
So, that might seem extreme for you. That might seem radical, and that's totally fine. You don't have to operate the way we do.
Yeah.
But you might get to a place where you do want to operate like this, and it literally feels weird to operate any way else now.
And you'd be surprised too at how many times things come up for you to respond to about the things that you think you should be doing when you would initiate going on the walk. And then your husband asks you, and you're like, holy shit, you just gave me something to respond to. It's like
Mm-hmm.
waiting. You're also like conserving your energy,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah, absolutely.
using it unnecessarily. Someone asked if I have defined route. Yes, Teresa and I both have defined
Slow, warm honey.
route.
Procrastinator queens.
Yep. Yep. Emily said that is so helpful. Just witnessing my MG cousin, she will start cleaning, and then 3 hours later, the whole house is clean. Yeah, totally. And wait, even like with cleaning shit, like I have dishes all over my counter right now, and I'll just kind of give you a play-by-play example real quick of how I responded this morning. I opened my fridge. We had a gallon of milk that was sour a couple days ago. We drink raw milk, so it doesn't really go bad. It just gets sour. And I'm like, I picked up the milk and I was like, this needs to go out of the fridge. And I set it on the counter. It was like, it's still a no to like actually dump it out and put it in the recycle bin. It's sitting on the counter. It was just like, what I'm responding to, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm also an MG, so I'm kind of all over the place. But I know that when I respond yes to looking at the dishes, and putting them, cleaning them, doing them, it will get done really efficiently, and it will be a good use of my energy instead of like dragging my ass through doing the dishes.
Yeah, because you don't really want to do it. You don't really have, it's not even about wanting. It's just about the energy's there or it's
Totally.
not.
It's
The
not. Yeah.
energy, yeah, it's
Yeah.
either there or not. And
Yeah.
that's what the sacral tells you is what you have energy for and what you don't have energy for. Even when it comes to work, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
had a MG client, defined heart MG 2034. She works a 9 to 5 and they'll give her things to do, right? And it's like, oh, maybe she'll have this done in 3 days or something, and she'll get it done the first day. She also
Yeah.
has an undefined route. She'll get it done the first day, and then she'll be like, hey, what else do you have for me? She started practicing just waiting to respond. And because she was getting frustrated, she was getting burned out. She was doing way more work than anybody else because she's fast. And so she's like, I'm just going to wait to respond. If I finish everything, I'm finished. And if they don't give me more, I'm just going to chill,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that she started getting so less frustrated in her job. And for a while, she thought she needed to quit. And it was actually just that she was doing too much
Yeah.
and not waiting
Totally.
to respond,
Totally.
initiating.
Yeah. And then you have burnout frustration versus like sacral satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I bet she's feeling a lot more satisfied in life.
Like 1,000 times% more satisfied just from that one little ship. And there was other things that changed for her too, but that was huge.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I'm passionate about like tweaking those little things in life and just having awareness of where you're initiating all the time and not, you don't even realize how often you're doing it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
generators were so quick to wake up, but really, it's like, yeah, you have this awareness. I'm a generator. This is how I work in the world. And then you think you're doing it correctly because your mind thinks. It's like you hear 70% of the world's generator. Oh, I'm working in response all the time. Here's how I'm doing it. But you're still like plowing through life initiating.
Yeah, or you're bypassing your sacral nose
Yeah.
because you can, I mean, defined heart or not, I used willpower that I didn't have to bypass my sacral for years, working jobs that were not satisfying for me. And
Yes.
it's that feeling of like, I mean, I don't drive stick, but what I would imagine when you're like driving stick and the gears are grinding and you're trying to force energy to come out of something that has no energy for it.
Yes. Or you, because you have to do it to get to another place that your mind thinks you need to be.
Uh-huh. All the mic drops.
That root cracks me up. It's like, no, 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 yes.
Yeah, waiting for the pulse, waiting for the pulse.
Yeah. Yeah. The only channel coming off my root is channel of struggle.
Mm.
And speaking of like gates and things off the sacral, if you're a sacral being, know what gates you have coming off, know your channels, know what you're responding to, know what you're designed to respond to. Um,
Yeah,
you're
like
going to
Brandy
learn.
and I both have very different responses
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the only channel that I have coming off my sacral is 659. It's an emotional channel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me a generator, is an emotional channel. So I'm going to respond to very different things than she does.
Yeah, I'm just like available or not. Available or not. I have gate 34. So it's just knowing that. And then even that's good for me to understand. And when I'm communicating with other people, like especially my husband, he'll be like, I don't understand why you, and I'm like, I'm just not available for that. It's like, don't take it personal, whether it's like, why aren't you doing the dishes? I'm just not available for that. It's like my mind is telling me I should do them, but my body is like, we're just not available.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, Amanda says, or more like staying in the first gear and trying to get on the highway, the engine will lug. Yeah.
That's somebody that actually probably drives stick or knows how to. Clearly, I don't know how to.
Like I could drive a stick if I needed to like drive someone to the hospital,
Yeah,
but like that's
that
it.
energy would be available. But I know my brother used to try to teach me, and
Like I would
it
like,
was too much to think at.
yeah. This is incredible to listen to, and what a power pack you both bring. Oh, thank you. I'm here vibrating with your energies lovingly, a delighted non-motor projector. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining us. I think it's great for all types to understand all types, to learn about all types, you know.
Mm.
But that lived experience is just a type to type thing, you know. And even with
Mm-hmm.
MGs, we're a little bit faster. you know, we can bring things to form, manifest through our, you know, having a motor to throat. We have a workshop coming up, a master class on responding, where we go into way more nuanced things, and you know, even talking about the difference between generator and MG. That's big too, because there's a different level of energy, and then even MGs that have, like what Teresa and I have been talking about, MGs that have direct motor to throat and MGs that go like from the sacral up.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. I'd love to
It's just a
hear.
vibe.
Yeah, yeah. I learned a lot hearing how Brandy's sacral, because 27 is my conscious sun, so it's not nearly the same, but it's helpful to hear. I have gate 27 off my sacral as well. So I care or I don't. It's a binary, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just being okay with like knowing that it's literally like there isn't a lot of gray area. And when you start to get into the gray area, that's your mind. Well, I kind of care.
The sacral is not an awareness
It's
center.
not an awareness center, and it doesn't really have a voice, so it's not like telling me I care. It's just
It's
like
grunting at you.
it's just grunting, and then my awareness is, oh, you know, that's something I care about, or I want to like nourish.
Mm-hmm. Unless you have the 2034, you might say yes, no.
So, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, you know.
And if you have gate 29, you might just be saying yes all the time.
That is me. Or was me before I learned to wait.
Yeah, yeah.
In my wave. But yeah, I was like the yes woman. You get a yes, you get a yes, you get a yes. Just giving
Like
those
Oprah.
yeses away.
Carla says, I never know if I'm responding correctly. Example, someone makes eye contact, I smile and nod. Is that initiating or a response? It feels like responding.
Yeah, that feels like responding to me.
There's so many subtleties and nuances, you know?
Nuance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's also going to be a feeling that you get. Am I a yes?
Yeah.
You know, it's not, somebody
Also,
could do that to you and you're like, I don't have energy to respond to that.
right.
I'm not even going to give that person a smile.
Right. Right. And then like you might be a fourth line and everyone's your friend and you're like, we're friends now.
Mm-hmm.
Make eye contact. No.
For fourth lines, even strangers are friends sometimes.
Yeah. Amanda says, I love comparing it to a manual. Do I have the right gear? AKA, I am available for certain things. Digging this. Yeah. Yeah. And your
That's a
mind
great
doesn't know
point.
what you're available for. And that's what you know, like if we're talking about gate 34 or anything that you're responding to, your mind is not going to like always align with your sacral. And a lot of times they'll be like, why the hell is that a yes? You know? And it's okay to like pause and like listen to the dialogue that's going on, but just understanding that your sacral is responding to something. Also, following your authority, because if you're sacral, you're either emotional or sacral. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're sacral acting like an emotional, like I'm going to feel this out for a while, that's not correct either.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're emotional, being like, yep, right now, without any previous like riding of the wave, you know, that's when we can get into frustration too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in depth at the
Totally.
master class too, because emotional generators are a different breed. Like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
it is a whole
mm-hmm.
it is a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
We're very different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to really trial and error my way through that shit.
Yeah, like even like Teresa and I, we've been talking about doing something for sacrals, like having a container for sacrals where we offer different classes. I mean, right away when it was like we were given something to respond to, I'm like, yep, right now. And then I'm just like, I'll just wait for you whenever you're ready. You know?
4 months later, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
But it all lines like now it's smooth.
It
You know?
aligns.
Like
Mm-hmm.
literally it's smooth. We waited to respond. I hate technology with a passion, but I like created a website in like no time flat. And I was like, whoa, you know, everything just was like, here you go. At the exact moment that I actually needed the website connected to the web address, my husband who does that stuff for a living, he walked upstairs and I was like, hey, can you connect this? Projector master, can I invite you to connect this? Because I know you got skills. And he's like, yeah, I'm free right now. Like it just was all, instead of like this,
The
like, hey,
stars
I need you to
aligned.
do this, and hey, I need you to do that, and this like resistance or like pulling him into doing something. It was just like boom, 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 boom.
Yep. And we were even like a few months ago, we were talking about, or maybe a month ago, we were like, oh, we should do like a class on all the centers and da da da. But we weren't really working in response. If we
No.
think back to that, and that's why we never did anything with it. We talked about it, but we never actually moved forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there may be even some Canva graphics.
Yeah, and
But
it's
we
okay to like do that if you want to. If you just need to like fuck around and find out,
mm-hmm.
then
Because
do it.
that's the thing too, and I don't know if this might just be an MG thing, this might be an emotional thing. I don't know. This is my experience. Sometimes I need to take the first step towards something,
To
and
get
that's kind of like a foolproof thing. If you don't know whether you're working in response or you don't really know what your authority is saying, just start taking the first step as long as it's not like the whole shebang, right? Like for example, Randy and I were invited to Santa Fe for a human design like conference thing that's going on right now. And I was like, I don't know, I'm riding my wave about it. And so I just started taking the first step. I was like, I'm going to look up Airbnbs and see how it feels for me. I started doing it and I'm like, it doesn't feel like there's energy here for me to even book this, So sometimes it's like just inching towards the thing and see how you feel every step of the way. And sometimes with MGs, we have to be doing the thing before we realize whether it's for us or not.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a good way to, without committing, just feel into it.
Yeah, and two,
Again, might be an emotional thing. I don't know.
well, no, I get that as sacral authority. Sometimes I don't get a clear yes or no until I get more information, and sometimes that more
Yeah.
information is kind of is like wandering into that. I need more information, and even that's something I tell my clients a lot. As sacral beings, like it's okay to need more information. You don't have to be like, do you want tea? No. But if someone's like, do you want peppermint tea? And you're like, yeah, there's a totally different, I need, what kind of tea? Peppermint. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like,
Yeah. We both say that a lot. Give me more to respond to. Let's say somebody invites you to a party and they don't give you any information though.
yeah.
You're probably, if it's a neutral feeling, if you're not getting a clear yes or no, you don't have enough information.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll say, oh, there's gonna be tacos there.
Tacos.
Ooh, Sacral's responding to those tacos.
Yeah, and
I'm
the
in.
subtleties, like the subtleties in your body and paying attention to that. And, there's so many things being connected to your body. That's huge.
Mhm.
Someone's asking a question. Is this workshop only for sacral beings, or people who are in relationships with sacrals can join to learn about how to better guide and support them? So what we have, we've had several projectors ask. They're like, ooh, we want to be a fly on the wall. And we're going to keep this container of all of our being sacral classes for sacrals only while it's live. There will be the option for non-sacrals to purchase the recording, to do their own, most likely it'll be projectors, to do their own, to dig into human design deeper, to catch that. But a couple things. The energy might be too much for non-sacrals. And we just really want to honor the people that are there. And sometimes, not saying it would always happen, but I would feel bad like restricting people, being like, yeah, projector, you can join, but you can't participate. That doesn't feel good. And yeah, just keeping it sacral. Do you have anything to say on that, Teresa?
Yeah, I mean, that might change. We might like do a class or something and be like, you know what, it'd actually be cool to have projectors here or whatever. So I don't know. I think we're just right now, at least from my authority, it just felt like a no. And again, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It just, for me, it was just like, it feels like a no. But
and we're
definitely,
MGs, so it's likely to change.
yeah, 100%. I'm like, pretty much never solid on anything going
right
forward.
now,
So
we have 3 classes that are up right now. We have responding, health, and business and work. And so far, those 3 are for sacral beings only to attend live. That's what we know. That's all the information that we have.
that's all we know.
Emily's asking, how does it affect having an emotional in your home as a non-emotional generator? I've covered this a couple times, but it is wild. I have two emotional authorities in the house. I've learned a lot about emotional authority from Teresa. If you're not already following her on Instagram, go check out her page. She talks about the process. She's really transparent with it, really vulnerable, and it really comes from this like pure place of expression. So learning about the emotional process has been good. It's really important for me to understand. I've started like when my husband's processing stuff, I've started experimenting with staying like 8 feet away from him. You know, instead of being like close on the couch and like talking when he's like processing, I'll be like, let's, you know, separate from each other so I can really make sure that I'm not getting wrapped up in that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy for me to do.
Especially
But
if it involves you too, right? If it's just
yeah,
something that like he's maybe just processing on his own,
yeah.
but
Oh
when it
yeah, if it
also,
involves me, I have to like then I know my own self in that situation. I had this interesting, weird. I had the first one of the first thoughts I had this morning, Teresa. I have to say this because it just came up. Was that you have 3955,
hmm
and it was just like I had this moment. I was like, does she really? Because like because if you want to see somebody who really understands the emotional process, and I'm sorry if I'm making you uncomfortable with all this like praise, but
my open ego loves it.
I know, but I'm like, I would not ever guess that you had 3955. That's a volatile emotional wave. And you like move through it and you live a life working in response. You move your body. You are honoring your body, honoring your authority, honoring your process so much that it's like you have two other emotional waves. And it's like those are the only ones that are like, you would think they all have the same flow because you move through them so beautifully. So I just want to comment on that. So if anybody here has channel of emoting, and you recognize it in people in your life, it's kind of crazy and volatile. Follow Teresa and just like see how it can express. It can express so beautifully. And Brayton, if you're a projector, he has channel of emoting as well.
Yeah, that channel is interesting because, you know, Brayton told me that that channel compresses over time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, right, quad right projector wisdom. Uh, I haven't read that anywhere, but he's read everything ever. So, um, and I really felt that because it was very volatile when I was in my 20s and before I was living my design. And as a child, if you ask my parents how I was as a child, I was like a fire tornado. Like, no joke. Like I think my dad had to take my door off my hinges when I was like 8 years old because I slammed it so much. That is really intense energy. I'm
Yeah.
not joking.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I don't know. I think especially with an open ego, I've really understood what my triggers are and why. And how if I'm not allowing that emotional energy to flow through me and to express, um, then I can get triggered really easily. And oftentimes it's my mind that's getting triggered and just kind of amplifying my wave. It's almost like using my wave as a weapon
Mm-hmm.
when it's my mind triggering me, if that makes sense. If
Yeah.
I'm just flowing through my emotional energy and you know, and I've learned I need to cry a lot. Like I need to move that through. And oftentimes I think I am blessed that I have two individual waves and that one tribal, the 659, because it's just kind of quick, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Whereas some of my clients with different waves, it's been like a longer, more drawn out process, I've noticed. But you know, we're all different too. Each of us have a different frequency and
Yeah.
the 3955 is challenging because the thing that I find the hardest about it actually is not even my own reaction to things, it's other people's when they're around me. Because it's like, I know how to operate that weapon. Like I'm trained with that weapon. You know, I go to the shooting
Mm-hmm.
range with that
Mm-hmm.
weapon. Then
Yeah.
you get around people that aren't used to yielding that and they're like, whoa. And I see people like getting cranked up because of my energy. Um, so yeah, I don't know if any other emotionals, particularly with that channel, have witnessed that. And in the past, I would have people tell me that I was like intimidating, and I'm like a puppy dog. What? I haven't gotten that for a long time though. So
Yeah. So back to the original question, the biggest thing for non-emotional living with an emotional, what I've noticed is being able to witness a healthy emotional somewhere in your life and just kind of observe and see. It'll help you understand the process, even if the person you're around doesn't have awareness of their design as much as you do, because if we're all like human design nerds living with people who don't give a shit about human design, we can still honor them from our awareness. And so being aware of what a healthy emotional looks like is awesome. And Sarah is on here. Sarah sows seeds. She's a 1-4 emotional generator.
not
No,
emotional.
she's sacral. She's sacral.
Completely open emotional center.
Completely open emotional. No. I know. I just saw her name. She does a really good job of expressing emotions as a non-emotional, of like a healthy way to do that, because there's also the unhealthy way for non-emotionals. So having an awareness of what healthy expression of that looks like, because some of us can just close it off too much. And Sarah's innocence motivation, so it's just beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I love those innocents.
Mm-hmm.
Those innocents people, they're like such a reprieve
Mm-hmm.
from this intense world we're all living in.
Yep. Lauren's asking, Teresa Brenneman, do you have feeling cognition? If so, what does that look like for you when you get clarity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do have feeling cognition. Clarity, I'm starting to evolve my definition of clarity, and this is kind of a newer thing that's integrating, so I'm excited about that. I think for, your first however long, you're kind of just reading the things that are out there, and it's like, oh, neutrality. And for a while, I was like, okay, I understand where that neutrality definition comes from, because normally it's wavy kind of volatility. But what I've actually found with my clarity is it's not neutrality. There's still this feeling of, yeah, yes, I want this. If it's neutral, I'm actually probably a no to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can take it or leave it. That's neutral to me. I'm a no to it then. If I could take it or leave it, I'm an emotional generator. I should be excited about that thing that I'm a yes to, right? And there is that excitement. I've noticed, especially there's a visceral feeling in my chest, particularly, maybe because I have a defined G center and I'm single definition, so everything kind of moves through. But it'll be this like pull,
Mm-hmm.
like a tingly sensations and a pull in my chest. And the weird thing about feeling cognition is it can kind of feel into the future with what I've experienced. And as an emotional being, you really have to be okay with waiting, even when you kind of know what the answer is already. The waiting is just really the safety mechanism. Because a lot of times, I would say 9 times out of 10, it was what my first initial reaction was.
Mm-hmm. We talked about that a little bit this morning about something. And it was like, we felt this like months and months ago. And then now it's happening and it's like boom, boom, boom. And it was just like feeling cognition just kind of goes out and is like, yep, but that's not necessarily where we make decisions. But it's like, it feels, it's hard to describe.
The way you phrased it earlier, it made it, to me, I almost imagine like an energetic arm coming out of my
Yeah.
chest
Yeah.
and like reaching out and touching something.
And then come back. Yeah, it's like and you say that and it feels like it's from here, and I want to now dive more into that with the G Center.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thanks for giving me something to respond to. But it feels like you reach out and touch something and you like know something, but you don't know all the details, but it does kind of create excitement. And then it's also at the same time like letting the mind go of thinking that's what's actually going to happen, but it like 9 times out of 10 actually does happen, and it happens better than what you felt, and you're like, whoa, shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was be curious to see, to hear if anybody's touch cognition and has that same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know if this is because I don't understand dream rave or anything like that, but I will have predictive dreams as well.
Totally.
Like I'll have like deja vu, but it was a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so even with Brandy, I think it was when I was in Iowa last. We were sitting somewhere and I was just like, holy shit, I had a dream about this. But it was I had a dream about you before I knew you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered telling my husband, so weird. I'm like, I had this dream I was traveling to somewhere up there, you know, in the top of the country. I just knew, I knew I was going upwards, and I
Yeah.
knew that you owned a wellness center.
Mm.
But I was like, I went to go visit this person that owns a wellness center, and I had that months before I even met you. And
Yeah.
it didn't hit me until I was in your house, and I was like, it was like that Reels sound where you're like, oh Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Teresa and I have actually only known each other for 31 weeks.
You know the exact
The only reason I know that is because like Instagram's doing this like 2021 playback where it like gives you these little clips, and it gave me one of the first day that we started talking. Like we met at Sam Zagar's strategy and authority class. We didn't really interact. Sarah was on there too, and then like followed each other on Instagram, and then she posted something and I responded to it in DMs, and we just started like talking, and I was like, holy shit. And then I posted this, like, I took that Step Brothers clip of like where they say the same thing at the same time, and they're like, better homes and gardens and blah blah blah, you know. And I was like, I just met Teresa Brenneman and this is what it feels like. And it was only 31 weeks ago, and I'm like, holy shit. Talk about like
lines.
fourth line MGs. We're just like,
Yep. And that's what I read a post the other day that I really liked that was like, I can't remember who wrote it. I'll find it at some point and tag it. But it was talking about fourth lines and how if you're a fourth line, a stranger can technically be in your network. There's just a feeling there, right? So it's like you meet somebody and it's that exact feeling that we had where you're in my network. We don't know each other, but you're in my network, you know?
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And when generators are like, I had somebody ask me this last night on a client call, like, what about relationships? And like, you know, and I was just like, you keep waiting to respond, and you meet the people that are meant for you. And that this is like a prime example. Like none of this would exist if I didn't wait to respond, you know? Like if, I don't even know if it would have been responsive right after the class. If I would have messaged you, I don't know what that would have been more initiating, but I like waited because that was a little while after the class.
mm-hmm.
So it's just really interesting what happens. Like your mind doesn't even know. It can't even predict. You can't like visualize how your life is going to be when you're working in response. It's almost like that slows things down, or you're like, that's not even like correct for me. That's, you know, my mind is going to take me somewhere, and it probably wouldn't be as smooth as if I just waited to respond.
Yeah, and it's a timing thing because I remember that day you messaged me, like who knows what state I would have been in any other day, but the day you messaged me, I remember I was on vacation and it was my last day of vacation, and I had gotten a lot of clarity on that vacation, and I had really stayed off my phone and hadn't talked to anybody, really hadn't done anything work related. And I remembered saying to my husband that day, I was like, I'm like ready to go home. I'm really starting to miss work and talking to people about human design and all of that. And then boom, you messaged me and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go into the bedroom and talk to this person for 7 hours.
And that's what it was. I was sitting on my couch and my husband's like, what? I'm like, no, I think I just met my new best friend. I don't know. I'm just this feeling.
I don't know.
Like, what's going on? I was like, I have no idea what's happening. It was just like,
mm-hmm. It was like the perfect timing for some reason. I don't know. We were both.
Yeah. And you were like in Mexico, and I was like, you're even in Mexico on vacation, and you're like, this is what I'm going to be doing. So
yep. I was like, I need this right now.
I'm gonna
That's
go
how you
back.
know you're a generator and you love your work, by the way, if you go on
Yeah,
vacation and you cannot wait to get back to it.
yeah, absolutely. Lauren says, I have channel of emoting and I relate to that, Teresa. Sharing my feelings with people who aren't ready or don't understand me, it completely overwhelms them and has burned bridges before. Yeah. Projector Emily, define spleen plus emotional wave definitely gives you your answer. Your emotional defines it.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah says, I find that too with defined spleen. Even if my sacral is a yes, I will know if it's actually going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's that nuance of defined spleen or undefined spleen and having being sacral.
Yeah.
There's so many
So many
differences.
nuances. So that's why
So
we're
much,
excited to do class, because
so
we
much
can,
uniqueness.
we can dig into some, we probably won't have time to dig into everybody's charts depending on who signs up, but we will have time to do question and response and pull up people's charts and kind of see what's going on and personalize the experience.
Yeah. Lauren says that's super helpful on feeling cognition. Thanks, Teresa. My feeling cognition has told me that things would happen, like my dog dying 2 weeks before she had a freak accident. Yes. And I want to comment on that too, because then there's like, I've had that happen. And then sometimes like my mind will pretend to be feeling cognition. And I'm like, oh my God.
This is where the mind is so sneaky, you guys, and you really just have to be, I mean, Sammy and I have talked about this a lot, but you really have to be able to catch your mind,
Yeah.
and it's just a process of being and still it's going to happen forever. Like, that's not going to go away. Your mind is still going to try to hijack you all the time. So it's just you noticing it, and sometimes you can't notice it with yourself and other people might notice it for you, and that's great too. Having friends that will call you out on your mind shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
none of us
That's
are
good.
immune to that. It's just the nature of being human.
Amanda says, oh my gosh, I have those dreams too. And then I don't want to say this name incorrectly. Suya Joe, it says, haha, I'm a 3-5 and I've had a lot of experiences like that with the fourth line. Yeah.
Yep, we're like, you're in my network.
Yeah. Projector Emily, I would love a video of mine cosplaying as different things. Yeah. And so Teresa does parts work and I do some similar stuff. It's not called parts work. I don't know what it is when we're in session, but it's where you can give all the different parts of you a voice. And what I think is fascinating with that is then you can really differentiate between who's talking. And in my sessions, I said this once on here before, but my first human design session was with Sam Zagar, and she gave me this really awesome visual of my 9 centers being like a panel of 9. And then I've gone on to take that with my clients to talk about, like, you have your own personal board of directors. You have 9 people on your board, right? Everything that's colored in are people that matter. The ones that are not colored in are like their parents bought them a ticket to the board. Like they just have money. They just get to be there, and everybody wonders why they're even there. But we learn from them, learn by their actions, learn how they're interacting, right? And essentially, your authority is what gets to delegate the funds of you.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will come by you. You can kind of hear how everything, each board member and how they're speaking. Spleen says, nope. you know, and the mind will be like, what about this? The open heading, you're like, shut up, you're the drunk board member. You don't even get to say anything. So it's really like allowing yourself the time to, like, the space to just like listen to the different voices so you can really get familiar with what they are. And the work that Teresa does, she digs in further in parts work. It's not human design, but it's digging into the different parts of you so everything can be seen and heard.
Yeah, it's different aspects of your consciousness. And, I've been playing with using things from the chart to give people something to jump onto when it comes to parts work. Because a lot of times when people come to me with that, it's because they're torn about something, or they continuously have a challenge or a problem in their life and they want to understand where that's coming from. because you can basically shift into like different aspects of consciousness, and then there's different memories and somatic experiences stored there and everything. So it's actually just a really good way to understand yourself on a deeper level and have more compassion. But I've been really pleased with playing with it, with the information that human design gives us. And I actually just have a new podcast out where we do parts work with motivation and transference. And it was really cool the way that that worked out. So if you're curious, you can go listen to that.
Yeah. And that just gives you more awareness of not self, and kind of where it comes from or how you picked it up. And, you know, just, and that's all human design is awareness. Having
Awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the somatic feelings that come, it's an embodiment piece. With the client that I did that parts work session with, she was really having trouble, like, kind of letting go of that aspect of herself that was desire motivation, you know. And we're always going to have transference, we're always going to go back and forth, of course, but she was having problems not making decisions from that space and not thinking of that as her identity, you know. So now she has a signpost, she has a somatic signpost in her body of what it feels like to be in desire and what it feels like to be in innocence. So it's really cool.
And that the client that you're talking about, she's an emotional MG. And understanding that all the parts and hearing all the parts and the somatic experience of it, you can really connect with your sacral deeper. You know,
100%.
Emily says you could definitely make a pretty funny reel acting that out. Probably like the board members. Yeah, the board of directors. It gives my clients are like, that's fucking brilliant. For then I can actually, you know, and we kind of go through and give like each one a little voice and like this is what this might sound like, and so they can be like, that's my sacral. Okay.
Yeah, and again, the sacral is not an awareness center.
Yeah.
So it's not going to have much to say except yes or no.
Exactly. Anything beyond that, well then, you know, if you have defined spleen, that comes in. Nope. Yeah, why couldn't we have an awareness center as an authority? Or why couldn't I have an awareness center as an authority? That'd be easier.
You don't want it. No, I'm just kidding.
I say that'd be easier when everyone's like, I wish I was sacral.
Right. I mean, there's benefits to both, right? There's
Yeah. And Emily says, and a mind running around pretending to be them. Yeah. That's totally true.
I'm like picturing it too. I'm picturing, like, you know, that I forget her name, but she does those brilliant reels about like the mind, and she'll even do like, you know, her vagina. She'll act it out. I can't think of her name. But I was thinking that with, you know, what if you were wearing all the different, like if you were sacral, you're wearing a red shirt, you know, you could totally go big with that. It would be
I fucking love reels. I love them.
I know. Maybe we'll have to plan something when we come visit next.
Yeah.
It'd be easier with two of us, I think, to like split the chart in half.
Yeah. I don't have the energy, so sacral can have it. There, yeah. And that's why I make reels too. That's an example of me responding. So people will be like, Brandy, your reels are fucking hilarious. And like, I don't plan them. I just work in response. Like, I'll just be like scrolling, I'll hear an audio and it's like, yep. And if I don't have something, like if that audio doesn't give me something to respond to in the moment as far as what to make, I just put it in my drafts, and sometimes I'll sacral through the saved audios and see if anything hits. But like, I don't ever create content from a space of like strategy. That, you know, I work in response for everything, you know, which kind of could feel like it has its downfalls, because you see people that like, and I'm receptive and people appear to have all their shit together and they're like planning their content and doing all of that. And when you're told you have to work in response, not have to, but your strategy is to work in response, you're like, okay, I'll work in response at everywhere except I'm going to plan all of this out. I'm gonna like, you know, do this. Like, we were talking yesterday about somebody who's like planning their content, who's a generator type, planning their content a year in advance. That is overwhelming for me to think about. And maybe it's because I'm receptive and maybe that person is left, but like, that doesn't leave options for me to work in response.
Yeah, that stressed me the fuck out when I read that. I was like, No. Well, and also this person was telling other people that basically you're dumb if you don't do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
whoa, you're a human design professional, but I
Hmm.
digress. You
Hmm.
do your thing, do your thing. You're for some people, you're not for me apparently, but that's cool.
Yeah, and maybe that is her working in
Yeah,
response. But that's what we
totally.
have to be aware of, like how we're putting things out there. We'll probably touch on this in business and work, our business and work class as well. But like what you do is individual to you. And so when we have these mass messages of here's what you need to do to be successful, here's what you need to do to have a 10K months, which I fucking hate that slogan. Um,
Literally makes me
but
bleh,
yeah,
ugh.
but it's just like, you're so unique. And so understanding your design, understanding as a generator type how to work in response, that you're just responding to the things around you, that just opens up like how you're going to work best in the world, you
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
know. Hey Laura, I see Sacral Journal joined us.
Oh, I
um,
can't see any comments, so hey.
and then Tanika says, oh my gosh, something I have having things with. I need to tap into my sacral more. Oh, having trouble with. Something I'm having trouble with. I need to tap into my sacral more, but need to learn how. So we have a class coming up, working in response. We have the link in our bio here. The website is beingsacral.com, and you can check out classes that we have coming up just for sacrals. The entire container is sacral only. Doesn't matter if you're sacral authority or emotional authority. We might have authority classes later, or individualized for sacral authority or emotional authority. Because the cool thing is I'm sacral, Teresa's emotional, so we get all the flavors of what it's like. But we're both MGs. We will talk about MGs and generators. Let's see here. So that's definitely something to check out if you're a sacral, because no one's really doing it. No one's really offering containers just for sacrals, focused on like simplicity. Like, I fucking love the basics of things and going back to the basics and the power that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Teresa has tons of compassion for the process, you know, like just like holding that space. And so with like our powers combined, it's really potent. How much information you can get from us in such a short period of time, or
Mm-hmm.
how much stuff you have to respond to from being in a container like that with us.
Yeah, I feel like you and I just complement each other really well because I mean, I have desire motivation, so I can really fucking give it to you when you need it, give it to you straight. But then Brandy has this power. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like, but then you also have hope motivation. So
Yeah.
sometimes I come to you when I just need hope for some, like, give me some hope. But then you
Yeah.
also have this like kick-ass power behind you, and then I'm extremely compassionate, and
Mm-hmm.
I can really hold space for that whole
Mm-hmm.
experience and for your inner child to be feeling all the things that are coming up around shifting and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're a good team.
Yeah. I'm like, talk to me after you talk to Teresa about your inner child. I'm here.
Yeah, no bullshit, power.
Aligned interiors. I do this too with the audio. Happened to me this morning. Oh, making reels in response. Yeah, just trying out where you're not like mentally being in response, but just witnessing like how much you're in response.
When your body gets excited about it.
Tanika says, sorry, I'm new here. Do you all do readings that are more detailed about all of this? Yes, we both do. Teresa is emotional. I'm sacral. I only do sacral authority sessions as far as foundation sessions. But I do have, if you already have an understanding of human design to some degree, whether it's just a foundational reading, I do power hour sessions. Teresa does a whole host of, I'll let you say what you do.
Oh, I mean, I do all the things. Usually with other types, I'll do a foundation reading for you, and then if for integration stuff, I'll send you to somebody who is like you. I'm a fourth line. I have a huge referral list. And then, but for all types, I do parts work. I do inner child work. Holding space, emotional processing. I do energy medicine. I'm primarily working with the physical body and seeing what the body needs to move, what stuck emotions need to shift, if you have pain in your body. Yeah, that's my whole shebang.
Yeah. And even in our businesses, we work in response. So and we're MGs, so we pivot. It's like we have something new to respond to. It's like, oh, I'm going to add this or I'm going to take away that. And this is working and that's not. And it's just kind of a flow. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what you get with us. It'll just be like today. And for me, especially, I'm sacral. I'm like, yep, that's done. You know, or yes, that's a yes for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, any last questions before we hop off? We just passed an hour. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I wonder why they do that. They don't let, like, when you join, or if I join you, Teresa, on here, I can't always see the comments.
Yeah, I could see them at the beginning, but then they just stopped. And I couldn't see like who's joining or anything either. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, I feel complete. Do you
Yeah,
feel complete?
sure do.
All right. Well, check out the link in our bio. You can check out the website, our sacral classes that are coming up. Share with your sacral friends. Yeah, let's just empower the generators. And that starts with working in response.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right. Have a good morning.
Bye.